Please help me reach 7,000 subscribers. It started with a sound that didn't belong on that quiet Seoul street. The late afternoon sun hung low over the tiled rooftops, washing everything in gold. Vendors were closing their stalls, children were chasing one another down the narrow lanes, and the city hummed its usual rhythm, calm, predictable. Then came the deep rumble. Engines, 4 of them, rolling through the stillness like thunder across the Han River. Heads turned. Curtains moved. Even the birds scattered from the power lines. A group of delivery riders appeared, their black jackets marked with a silver emblem, Seoul Guardians MC. They weren't troublemakers, just men who'd seen too much of life's rough edges and still chose loyalty over fame. At the front rode Jin Seok, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses, his expression unreadable. As they slowed near a side street, a faint, trembling voice rose above the hum of engines. "Excuse me." Sir Jin-seok turned his head. A little girl stood near the curb, her hands clutching the handles of a small pink scooter. Her hair was messy, her cheeks streaked with dirt and tears. In her other hand, she held a cardboard sign, the edges bent, the letters shaky but clear. "For sale, please help my mom." The riders cut their engines. Silence filled the street again. The girl lowered her head, her tiny shoulders trembling. "Please, buy my scooter, sir," she said, her voice cracking. "My mom hasn't eaten in 2 days." Even the wind seemed to pause. From a distance, under a dying cherry blossom tree, a woman sat slumped against the trunk, wrapped in a thin coat despite the warm air. Her face was pale, lips dry, hands limp in her lap. Jin-seok's throat tightened. The roar of engines had always been his shield against the world's sadness, but now, standing there, even the strongest noise couldn't drown the ache in his chest. He took a slow step toward the girl, his shadow falling over her small frame. "What's your name, kid?" he asked gently. "Soo-ah," she whispered. "I just want to buy food for my mom." The men behind him exchanged glances, a look of disbelief, of anger, of heartbreak. None of them spoke. They didn't have to. The air hung heavy, filled with the weight of a story that was only beginning to unfold. Soo-ah's small hands gripped the scooter tighter, as if letting go meant losing the last thing she owned. The scooter was pink once, but its paint was chipped, its wheels scuffed from too many long walks instead of rides. A yellow ribbon dangled from the handle, faded by time, but still carefully tied, a child's effort to keep something beautiful in a world that wasn't kind. Jin-seok crouched, so his eyes were level with hers. Up close, she looked even younger, 6, maybe 7. Her dress was pressed neatly, but the collar was frayed, and her socks didn't match. He could tell she'd tried to look polite, respectful, worthy of help. "Why are you selling this, Soo-ah?" he asked softly. She blinked fast, trying not to cry. She hasn't eaten since yesterday. I told her I'd sell my scooter. I can buy rice and soup." Behind her, under the cherry blossom tree, the woman stirred weakly. Yun-ji, her mother. Her hands trembled as she tried to wave off the riders, ashamed. Jin-seok saw the pride in that small gesture. Even in hunger, she didn't want pity. The engines behind him clicked as they cooled. Dae-hoon stepped forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Boss, this is real?" Jin-seok nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. Too real. The street was silent except for the soft hum of distant traffic. A boy on a bicycle slowed, stared, then hurried away. A cat darted behind a wall. Life went on. But here, in this small patch of shade, time seemed to hold its breath. Jin-seok reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded bill, and placed it gently into Soo-ah's hand. "Keep your scooter, little one," he said. "We'll find another way." Her eyes widened, not understanding. "But you have to take it. It's a deal." Jin-seok smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides pain. "The deal," he said, "is that you promise to keep riding. Don't stop." Her lip quivered. "Even when it's hard?" He nodded. "Especially then." As he stood, his shadow fell across her small figure, long and steady like a shield. The wind picked up again, fluttering the cardboard sign in her hand. For a moment, Seoul's endless noise faded. All that remained was the quiet courage of a child trying to save her mother and the men who couldn't walk away from her story. Suha wiped her face with the back of her hand. The bill Jin Seok had given her looked too big for her tiny fingers. She held it close, afraid it might disappear. Jin Seok glanced toward the tree where Yoonji sat. Her head rested against the trunk, eyes half open but distant. He walked closer, each step slow, careful not to startle her. "Mom," he said softly, "your daughter's been out here trying to sell her scooter." Yoonji tried to sit straighter. "I told her not to." Her voice cracked, rough from thirst. "She's just a child." Suha ran to her mother, hugging her waist. They're nice people. They gave us money." Yoonji's eyes filled with tears, the kind that come from shame, not relief. "You shouldn't have," she murmured. "I used to stand on my own." Jin Seok crouched beside them. Standing alone is hard when the world keeps pushing. For a long moment the air was silent, except for the distant murmur of traffic. Then Yoonji began to talk, not because she wanted to, but because sometimes pain needs to be heard. She told them about her job at Kang Catering, one of Seoul's most respected companies. How she'd worked long hours, smiling through exhaustion, until one winter day her health failed. She fainted in the kitchen. The hospital bills drained what little she had, and when she returned, her manager told her that the company was downsizing. The owner, Chairman Kang, appeared on TV often, donating to charities, shaking hands, smiling for cameras. But when Yoonji begged him for 2 more weeks of work so she could buy her daughter's winter clothes, he only said, "I can't make exceptions." She was gone by the next morning. The electricity was cut off a month later. They sold everything they could, old clothes, kitchen items, even her wedding ring, until all that was left was Suha's scooter. Min-jae's fists clenched. "That's the same Kang who brags about charity galas." Yoonji nodded weakly. "He helps everyone, except the people who actually work for him." Jin Seok felt a heat rise in his chest, the kind that had nothing to do with anger alone. It was remembrance. He'd grown up watching his own mother beg for overdue paychecks. He thought he'd buried that memory long ago. He looked at Suha, who sat quietly by her mother's side, tracing patterns in the dirt with her finger. No child should have to carry that kind of weight. He turned back toward his crew. "We're not leaving it like this." Dae-hoon's eyes narrowed. "What are you thinking, Hyung?" Jin Seok looked toward the skyline, where the sun dipped behind glass towers. "We're going to remind Chairman Kang what decency looks like." The riders said nothing. They didn't have to. Their engines would do the talking soon. The late sunlight spilled across the narrow street as Jin Seok walked back toward his bike. The others followed quietly, Dae-hoon tall and serious, Min-jae always quick to act, and Ryu, whose calm eyes hid a lifetime of battles. None of them spoke, but their silence said everything. Jin Seok reached for his helmet, paused, and glanced once more at Suha and her mother. The little girl sat beside Yoonji, whispering something to make her smile. Even in their hunger, they looked like hope, refusing to die. He turned to Dae-hoon. "We've done stupid things before," he said quietly, "but not pointless ones. This won't be one of them." Dae-hoon smirked faintly. "What's the plan?" Jin Seok looked toward the city skyline, glowing in the distance. "We'll start with the man who took everything from her." The air changed then, heavier, charged. Min-jae cracked his knuckles. Ryu nodded once. "No grand speeches, no need for orders. These men weren't strangers to injustice. They'd seen enough of it on backstreets, and in boardrooms to know that sometimes silence was the loudest threat of all." Jin Seok pulled out his wallet again and walked back to Suha. He pressed a thick envelope into her small hands. "For your mom," he said softly. "Make sure she eats tonight." She stared at it, confused. "But, sir, it's too much." He smiled faintly. "Then it'll last until she smiles again." Yoonji tried to stand to thank him, but he gently motioned for her to stay seated. "Save your strength, Ajuma," he said kindly. "You'll need it soon." When he turned back to his bike, the others were already ready. Helmets on, engines rumbling low. The street trembled as 4 motorcycles came alive, their chrome flashing in the dim light. Children peeked through doorways again, and Suha's ribbon fluttered in the breeze. Jin Seok revved the throttle once, then looked over his shoulder at the little girl. "We'll come back, Sua," he called. "Take care of your mom." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Be careful, Ajusi." As they rode away, the sound of engines rolled down the narrow lane, echoing between walls, not a noise of rebellion, but a promise carried on wind, somewhere between the alleys and the high-rises. The men of Soul Guardians became more than riders that day. They became the echo of a child's courage and a mother's hunger that deserved to end. The Soul skyline glimmered in the evening light, glass towers catching the last blush of sunset. Traffic moved like slow veins through the city, horns echoing faintly below. At the heart of Gangnam stood Kang Tower, all mirrored glass and arrogance, reflecting everything except humility. The four riders pulled up to the front steps, engines rumbling in unison. Office workers paused mid-conversation, watching the men in black jackets dismount their motorcycles. The silver emblem, Soul Guardians MC, shimmered under the streetlights. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished marble and money. The receptionist froze as Jin Seok strode in, helmet under his arm, eyes cold but calm. "We're here to see Chairman Kang," he said. His voice carried quiet authority, the kind that made people listen before they argued. I'm sorry, sir, but you can't." Before she finished, Kang's voice echoed from the glass-walled office above. "Send them up." The elevator ride was silent. Dae-hoon cracked his knuckles. Min-jae adjusted his gloves. When the doors slid open, they stepped into a world of luxury. Imported rugs, framed awards, and a panoramic view of Seoul glittering like a treasure chest. Behind a massive desk sat Chairman Kang, silver hair combed perfectly, wrist heavy with a gold watch. He didn't stand. "You're making a mistake coming here like this," he said coolly. "Whatever it is, I can't help you." Jin Seok walked forward and placed something on the desk. A worn cardboard sign, the one with shaky handwriting, "For sale. Please help my mom." For a moment, Kang said nothing. His eyes flicked from the sign to Jin Seok's face. "What is this supposed to mean?" "It means your decisions have faces," Jin Seok said, his tone even. "A little girl named Su-ah tried to sell her scooter today because her mother hasn't eaten in 2 days. Her mother used to work for you, until you decided she was replaceable." Kang's smirk faltered. "You have no idea how business works." "And you," Jin Seok replied, leaning forward, "have no idea what humanity feels like." The other riders stood still, their eyes fixed on Kang. No violence, no shouting, just the heavy silence of men who'd seen the world's cruelty too many times to need threats. Kang swallowed, his confidence cracking under the weight of their gaze. "If you came here to intimidate me," Jin Seok shook his head. "We don't do intimidation. We do reminders." He pointed at the sign. "That's what your wealth costs when you forget compassion. A child selling hope for rice." For the first time, Kang's voice softened. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Jin Seok said. "But there's a woman who deserves her dignity back. Do what's right. Not for us, for her daughter." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "You can keep your gold, Kang, but if it's worth more to you than your soul, then you're the poorest man in Seoul." As the riders walked out, the sign remained on the desk, small, fragile, yet heavier than all the trophies that surrounded it, and when the elevator doors closed behind them, the mighty Chairman Kang sat alone, staring at a piece of cardboard that suddenly made his empire feel hollow. The next morning, Seoul woke to unexpected news. Headlines across every portal read, "Business tycoon Kang donates millions to single mothers." "Fund, former employees of Kang Catering, rehired." Anonymous sponsor covers medical bills for families in need. People whispered in cafes and subways, amazed. No one knew why the cold, proud chairman had suddenly turned generous overnight. But those who'd met him before said something in his eyes looked different now, quieter, almost guilty. In a modest apartment on the city's edge, Yoonji stared at her phone, tears streaming down her cheeks. The catering company had called. They wanted her back, not as a favor, but with apology and respect. A month's groceries had been delivered to her door that morning, no sender's name. Just a note taped to the box for Suha and her mother. "Eat well. You deserve peace." Yunji pressed the paper to her chest and sobbed silently. Su-ah hugged her legs tight, not fully understanding but smiling because her mother was smiling again. Meanwhile, at a roadside rest stop overlooking the Han River, Yun-seok and his brothers sat with their coffee cups, the skyline glinting in the distance. Dae-hoon chuckled as he read the same headlines on his phone. So the mighty Kang finally found his heart. Min-jae leaned back, grinning. Guess people still listen when you speak the truth the right way. Ryu sipped quietly, eyes fixed on the river. We didn't change him, he said softly. He changed himself. We just reminded him how. Jin-seok didn't reply. He watched the water glimmer in sunlight, thinking of the cardboard sign now lying somewhere on that rich man's desk. He finally spoke, almost to himself. You can't force kindness, but you can wake it up, the others nodded. They didn't need thanks or fame. Their satisfaction was simpler. A mother who could stand again, a child who could smile without hunger. As the wind brushed past, carrying the faint sounds of the city, Jin-seok stood and put on his helmet. Let's go see them, he said. There's one promise left to keep. The engine started once more, not loud this time, just steady, like a heartbeat finding rhythm again, by the park's old cherry blossom tree, the one that stood silent through every season. Yunji and Su-ah waited. The petals had begun to fall early this year, soft pink clouds dancing in the gentle spring breeze. The roar of engines broke the stillness. 4 motorcycles slowed to a stop by the path. Su-ah's eyes lit up instantly. Mom, it's them, she said, running forward before Yunji could respond. Jin-seok removed his helmet, smiling as the little girl threw her arms around him. Hey, warrior, he said softly. Still taking care of your mom? She nodded proudly. We got food now, and Mommy's working again. Yunji approached slowly, her voice trembling. I don't know how to thank you. You already did, Jin-seok said. By standing back up, they talked for a while beneath the cherry blossoms, laughter mixing with the rustle of petals. Dae-hoon teased Su-ah about her scooter, promising to fix it up. Min-jae showed her how to make the loud biker thumbs-up pose. Even Ryu, usually quiet, smiled softly as he handed her a pink helmet sticker shaped like a heart. Yunji's eyes filled again. I prayed for a miracle, she said. I never thought it would come wearing leather jackets. Jin-seok chuckled. Sometimes angels just take the long road. They stayed until the sun dipped low, painting the park in gold. As the riders prepared to leave, Su-ah waved with both hands, shouting, Come back soon! Jin-seok turned and smiled. We will. Keep shining, Su-ah. The bikes rolled away slowly, cherry blossoms swirling behind them like a farewell. For a moment, it looked as if the wind itself was blessing their path. The sun was sinking behind the Seoul skyline, bathing the city in molten gold. The 4 riders cruised along the Han River Highway, the wind carrying the faint laughter of the park, still echoing in their minds. The city lights flickered on one by one, like stars being born from concrete. Jin-seok rode in front, the cardboard sign now strapped securely to the back of his bike, the same one Su-ah had once held. The edges were worn, but the message still clear. For sale, please help my mom. Except now the word for sale had been crossed out. Beneath it, in careful handwriting, someone had written, Thank you. As they passed the bridge, Dae-hoon shouted over the wind, So, what now, leader? Jin-seok smiled beneath his helmet. There's always another road. Another person who needs a reminder. Min-jae revved his engine. Then let's keep riding. The bikes roared in unison, fading into the horizon, symbols of strength, compassion, and quiet rebellion against a cold world. The camera lingered on the cardboard sign one last time as it fluttered gently in the wind, carrying a story not of pity but of hope reborn, because sometimes it doesn't take a hero to change a life, just someone who refuses to look away. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Jin-seok's place? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every share might remind someone that kindness still exists on the road.